Good morning, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to episode 8 in the book of Galatians. This is actually season 6 of a podcast called Be With Me. I told you yesterday, for those of you who listened, I said that today would be a happy podcast. Well, if it is, it's going to be associated with crucifixion. Like, what? That's just crazy. It is because we're at a verse in Galatians. It's the most famous verse in Galatians, I think. Galatians 2:20. I have been crucified with Christ. It is no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. And the life I now live in the flesh, I live by faith in the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself for me. So I'm stuck today on the first sentence of that, which is, I have been crucified. So those 4 words, I have been crucified. First of all, it's not true, because I have not spent any time on a Roman execution machine called a cross and the process of crucifixion. So it's not true. But he has, and he has been crucified and died and is a perfect sacrifice. So the way I get crucified, if you will, is by associating myself with his crucifixion. And in that sense, I'm riding on his coattails and I'm on the winning team. A similar thing would be, let's say you follow Manchester United or maybe the Chicago Bulls, and a game is played, and then you tell me, it's like, oh, we won today. It's like, wait a minute, did you strap on the shin guards and go play? No, you didn't. How did you win? In what sense did you win? Well, by association with the winning team. Okay. Just for a second, let's say I really was crucified. If I, your humble podcaster, was crucified, I promise you I would do it poorly. I would do it sinfully. I would revile my persecutors. I would probably curse them. I would probably say bad words. I would probably condemn them. In other words, even by crucifixion, I would do it so poorly that I would ruin myself, even if the rest of my life was worthy. So when I look at that statement, I have been crucified. No, I haven't, number one. And if I did, I would do it wrong. So those 4 words are incredibly incomplete. So let's finish the sentence. Let's go to the 6 words. I have been crucified with Christ. So that's the key point. I want to pause just a second and just address what problem are the Galatians trying to fix here. They don't seem to argue that they're sinners, which is, that's something. Romans goes on and on about, all have sinned. And 1 John says, in chapter 1 says, if we say we have no sin, we deceive ourselves, and the truth is not in us, and we make God a liar. So apparently those groups of people that those letters are addressed to are even trying to get to a more foundational thing, is no, you're a sinner. I don't think the Galatians really study with this. Their problem is, well, we are sinners, but how do we fix it? And the way they fix it is kind of this bad idea of, in a word, they say, we'll fix it by being super Jews. So even if we're Gentiles, we'll turn them into kind of super Jews. Now, it is understandable because for 1,000 years, a number of thousands of years actually, that answer was true. So let's say you were a Gentile and you wanted to get right with God. Well, the way to do that would be to associate with the Jews. Why? Because they had the answer. They had the temple. They had the laws. They had the sacrificial system. So you would become what's called a proselyte. That is, you would be as Jewish as humanly possible, maybe even move to Jerusalem, to get on the coattails of the Jews. And that was welcomed. These people were welcomed into the faith. So for thousands of years, being super Jewish was actually the right idea to this answer until Jesus. So here's the deal. So in John 6:28, people asked Jesus, the disciples asked Jesus, what must we do? That is, what's the essential element to be doing the works of God. And Jesus answered them, this is the work, singular, of God, that you believe. So the work of God goes from being Jewish and doing the rites of being Jewish to belief. So how then am I crucified with Christ? First of all, you've got to agree to the sin. You have to agree to the problem. You have to agree to separation with God. You have to believe that a repair process is necessary, a plan, a rescue mission. You have to believe that there's a penalty for sin. So think about this is, let's say I commit some sort of a crime. Well, what do they do to pay the penalty for crime? Well, first of all, it's time. You go to jail, or maybe it's a restoration of the money you stole or something like that, or maybe it would be a fine, or maybe you would have to do community service and works. Well, what if I killed somebody? Well, maybe a life would be required. That is your life. Or here's the analogy. How about this other person comes and takes that punishment? That's what Christ does on the cross. And the penalty, this punishment we're talking about, is death. And who would pay this? So what if we say, well, my sin's not that bad. It doesn't require death. Well, the problem with us is we don't understand God's holiness. He's telling us, yeah, death is actually required. A perfectly holy and sinless sacrifice. So how am I crucified with Christ? Well, you are by association, by assent, by substitution, if you will. And how do I get there? How do I get onto his team? Well, it's by belief. It's by faith. Scripture says this in all kinds of beautiful ways, that you can belong to him, become his child, confess with your mouth, call on him. Set your seal to this with agreement. Come to him and drink. These are all words that we use today for getting on Jesus' team. So I have been crucified with Christ. Paul says it. I'm saying it. Here's my final question for you is, I have been crucified with Christ. Have you? Think about that. Get back to me. I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you for listening.